I mean,
Oh, we're
yeah,
talking,
okay, this is.
This is the one that goes over your ear.
Oh, I don't, that wasn't that.
Okay. When it's green, you're lying, when you're done talking. You don't have to hold it, just for you. So John,
Okay.
and then tap it, and then go to
Good evening, everybody. Welcome. So I always have to ask this now. Do we have anybody first time, new, hasn't been here before? Raise a hand, jump up and down. Okay. We need Catherine up here. So I'm going to get the lights. Catherine Kengott is stepping up to every possible position we have, and there's a couple of things she would like to discuss. I'm calling you, Catherine. You're going to have to just borrow this. So you got two slides, this one and then a minute.
How do I do this?
Just hold up your mouth. Yep, that's it.
Okay, it's working. All right. Let's see. Picnic is happening. Yes, the picnic is next Saturday. It starts at 4 o'clock and it ends at around 8. If anyone would like to come a little bit early and maybe help set up the tables or anything like that, we have a few volunteers, more the merrier. Come on over around 2:30 or 3, and that would be very helpful. So we are doing things a little bit differently this year. We are asking that everybody who registers, and we do have quite a few registrations at this point. That's quite a few. Okay. So those people that register will be paying $15, and then we provide the food. So we have hot dogs, we have hamburgers, we have, as Barb Pennington called it, all the accoutrement for the hot dogs and hamburgers. So we also have salads. I noticed that baked beans are a favorite of yours.
Yeah.
So they're being emphasized. But beyond baked beans, we have pasta salad, potato salad, fruit salad. If you'd like to bring a dessert, feel free. That would be lovely because everyone loves desserts. And also, if you have any type of, if you're worried about getting food that's prepared from somewhere else and you'd like to bring something, bring it for yourself, bring it to share. There are no rules. We're just, again, trying something a little bit different. So the registration deadline for the picnic, is it up there? I would say, people are going to wait till the last minute to see what the weather's doing. Is there a way that we could collect money at the door?
Yeah.
Well, see, that's the thing. We need to know our count so that we can order enough.
I think we had a closing. But we can go to Thursday, but no later than Thursday.
Okay. All right. So we're going to make the deadline for registering for the picnic the Thursday, which is next week. Thank you. Thursday, the 21st. So everybody, please, if you're out there and you're going to come to the picnic, please do. And that's it. Mentor program. Okay. The mentor-mentee night, presentation night, is going to be Tuesday on September 2nd. And we do have 6 or 7. We still have one person on the fence, but we have 6 or 7 mentors coming in this time. If you still want to mentor, please let me know as soon as possible at capkengo1@gmail.com. And we hope to bring in a lot of mentees, new members, whatever. And we'll put together a wonderful program for you. And you will be in good hands with the mentors who will teach you everything they know and make you the photographer you were meant to be. How's that sound? I'm going with that. Okay. Anyway, if you have any questions about the picnic or the mentoring program, please contact me. And thank you. And good luck tonight.
Thanks, Catherine. I'm not going to, quote, spill the beans, but we're going to have some pretty good prizes at the picnic. I mean, that's all I can say. Pretty good prizes. Okay, air show. It's closed out. I printed out 90 tickets today. You can still feel the heat off of my printer. You're responsible for your own parking. I hate to keep harping on it, but we don't want anybody showing up and they can't get in there to park. If you want to park on site, you can park wherever you want. So we're going to have the clubhouse open. I will be here no later than 6 o'clock on the 22nd, the 27th, and the 29th. So you have to come up and pick up your physical tickets. Don't lose them. They're the typical barcode thing, but they're just printed on regular paper. which was a lot better than me trying to handle all the tickets by digital. Yeah, I'm already losing enough hair. So make sure you set yourself up for a time you can come pick up your tickets. Wally Nell is going to be next Friday. As I mentioned him before, he's a club member. I don't think Wally's here, is he? Just excellent photographer, so he's going to talk to us about natural light portraits. And then the one, not to minimize Wally, but I'm really looking forward to this one. John Paganini, who happens to be sitting up here in the front row, is going to be talking about the photographer and AI, and there's just a lot of stuff that I don't know if he's going to handle in one time or not. Might try to convince him to do another presentation. So that's going to be on the 22nd. Just a reminder, sign up for schools. Registration's open. Good idea to get signed up a little bit early because then we've got all your information. So all the schools will be giving out information for you ahead of time. And we have a black and white print competition coming up on September 5th. As always, on print competition, you have to have them in here by 7:30. That's the good news. You know, it's not like Shutter Score. You don't have to have it done 10 days ahead of time. But we need you here really a little earlier than 7:30 if you could, because if you've been here and there's a lot of entries, it gets pretty hectic. So just to help the people that are logging in the prints and so forth, please try to get here a little bit earlier. But 7:30 is the deadline. You come in at 7:35, it's like doors closed. And then we have another exhibit going on that's going to start on September 6th, which is a Saturday. The reception is 2 to 3:30, and it's out in Chagrin Falls at their library. So tonight we have our projection competition. I'm going to have John Paganini come up. He has stepped up to be our creative chair, and he's going to do an introduction of the judges.
Great, thank you, and I'm honored to be in this position. Tonight's my first night, and I'm looking forward to all the creative competitions. And I first want to thank Dan, Sandy for helping me out and moving this forward. And also I sent out an email to some volunteers, and Jean and Bonnie and Dennis all stepped up and said, yes, we'll read tonight. So pretty excited about the volunteerism aspect of the club. Is just phenomenal, and that's really going to help make things a success, of course. So I'm going to read a little bit about the judges. You know, I read their bios, and these judges, we're lucky. It feels like we're very lucky to have judges with these credentials and qualifications looking at our stuff, because wow. So the first one is John Eric Paulson, who's a nickname in the documentation is John P., which happens to be mine as well. But he has been his passion and profession for 46 years. He's got a Bachelor of Arts degree in art from San Jose, and he's been awarded both the Master of Photography and Photographic Craftsman degrees from the Professional Photographers of America. In '97, he began pursuing digital images in his work, and he's lectured to state, regional, and national professional photography groups from East to West Coast, both in the U.S. and Canada. And he's written many articles published in professional photographic journals, and he's from Ashland, Ohio. So that's John Eric Paulson. And tonight, Dennis Wirt is going to be reading his comments. So thank you, Dennis, for that. The second judge, Mac Nicholson, he's a portrait and narrative photographer exploring the space between dream and documentation. Through Dim Horizon Studios, his lens captures modern mythologies, futuristic, cinematic, and often no otherworldly, blending dramatic light, costume, and architecture to elevate characters into icons. Based in Atlanta and working across the Southeast, Matt's work is rooted in creative collaboration and a deep reverence for visual storytelling, inviting viewers to step into the imagined worlds that feel at once epic and intimately human. So that's going to be read by Jean. Thank you very much. And the last judge was Phil White, a master photographic craftsman, certified professional photographer, Professional Photographers of America approved juror with a career spanning over 3 decades. He's studied commercial and fine arts at Boise State University and earned his professional photography degree from the New York Institute of Photography in 1987. So for 22 years, he's managed a commercial photo lab in Boise while teaching and consulting. In 2014, he co-founded H Street Studio, home to Cleveland Images and CSI Photo Design. Phil is a passionate advocate for the photographer community, dedicated to elevating professional standards and promoting photography as both a sustainable career and an art form. And that is going to be read by Bonnie Lusko. So thank you to the readers, and I guess we can let the show begin. Okay. Are you Dan? Yeah. Thank you.
Ready? This is entitled American Heartland by Wally Nell. The judge, Matthew, said the scene could be considered very familiar to those who have been raised near farms. The familiarity leads to a true sense of comfort brought about by the impressionist style, along with the use of texture to draw the viewer into the composition.
Wally Neal, American Heartland, a score of 23.
Brick Boy, Phil said, I really appreciate the creativity the maker treated us to in this image. I'm enjoying the way the maker shaped the bricks in the facial area of this boy, which I think adds to the surreal impact of this image. Some things that would improve the image would be that the same degree of shaping of the bricks should also be evident in the neck. And I'm not seeing it to the same degree as I am in the face, particularly close to the neckline. I find the cyan color distracting. The shirt, by virtue of the fact that it is different from the predominant red color throughout the rest of the image, and it seems to pull my eye down into the lower left corner. I'm also seeing a cyan color in the whites, which leaves me wondering why that choice was made. I feel that a neutral white in the eyes and a neutral colored shirt would have improved the image overall. All in all, this is a really cool idea, and I really enjoy the creative thought process behind this image. Keep creating.
Brick Boy, a score of 20.
Oh, this is Mike Kopkis. Sorry.
Oh my God. So I typically would say the name
Okay.
and the image name, sure. Next one.
It's off.
Try turning it on.
Try now. Nope, it's going off here. Batteries. Never plays.
John says, I would like to commend the maker on the use of yellow. Yellow is a really hard color to use as it weights so much more than the other colors. I wonder what it would look like if the top portion of the circle on the left edge was darker, as it draws my eye out of the picture, maybe even crop it off the left edge.
Marge Brady, Bubbles, 22.
Matthew said the juxtaposition of classic and contemporary is the main draw of this piece. Compositionally, the lines from the tile in the background are a little distracting and take away focus from the main point of the photo.
Jennifer Gaba, Cappuccino to Go, 22.
Phil says, this is a great use of time exposure to create these those wonderful lines through what appears to be a city. My eye travels all along these lines back and forth, so great use of leading lines. The colors work together nicely as they are predominantly red, white, and black, and the city lights have detail and are not blown out. I think what could be improved is the shadow detail that I'm struggling to see, particularly on the left-hand side between the lower streaks of light. With the exception of a few small details, it simply appears to be black, as does the upper right-hand corner. It doesn't need much, but if there were more shadow detail, I think this would be a richer image to look at. I think also it would create areas of transition between the streaks of light, helping the eye work through the entire composition, while still... That's off my page.
Keeping the main subject as the streaks of light that lead the eye through the cityscape. That was Joe DiStefano. Car Trails, a score of 20.
John's comment, this reminds me of Frank Gehry's buildings. The colors in this photograph are so shocking. The colors are competing with the buildings. It would be interesting to see this with different colors to see what I like better.
Joe DiStefano, Crazy Cleveland Skyline, a score of 22.
Matthew said the composition of the piece is intentionally distracting, leading to a sense of confusion. The text and its alignment also plays a role in the confusion due to its use and orientation.
Mike Kopkis, Down the Halls of Learning, a score of 21.
Phil said, this image was very intriguing. I think the interplay between the red and green is interesting and plays into the story of this image. Green and red are contrasting colors and don't mix, and I think that conflict between the colors is truly one of the striking elements of this image. The image is sharp despite what was probably a difficult venue to work in. The other thing is the raw emotion in the expression of the man. That expression is so powerful, reinforced by color choices. It is truly at its core a very dramatic image. A couple of things to help improve. For one is the light form that is immigrating from his mouth. It appears to be representative of the sound that this man is broadcasting. Yet, I feel that it both distracts from the raw energy that is in the expression of this man, and strangely somehow softens that emotion. I think because it has a soft and curving quality visually, which contrasts the expression behind it, and it creates a disconnect for me emotionally and pulls away some of the impact. In addition, under the man's chin and in his beard, there are some blocked up blacks which lack detail. I have to commend the maker for capturing the moment in what was probably a difficult venue.
Dan Sandy, Eating Raw Energy, a score of 21.
John says, I had a hard time with this. There are 4 images and I am not sure what the story is. I really need more of a backstory to understand.
Bill Keaton, End of Freedom, a score of 21.
Matthew said the texture of this piece is truly its most drawing aspect. I feel like I could reach through and touch the nets, and their color offers additional depth and interest. To example, the photo intently. Maybe he meant to examine the photo intently.
Yeah. That Catherine Kengott, Fishnets, a score of 19.
excuse me, Phil says, I really enjoy the surreal element of this image. The repeating patterns of these flowers against a dark sky is really interesting. And having sky and clouds as a base is also interesting and something I enjoy. It's almost like they're floating into space. It's a cool concept. I have a couple of things that I would like to highlight that would help make some improvements. I was distracted by the stem at the bottom of the image at the base of the center stalk of flowers. It is significantly brighter than I would expect, and my eye kept hanging out down there. I think toning down the stalk and the leaves would help the overall image of this image, as well as toning down the top of the same stalk. And in the leaf on the right-hand stalk. The other thing in the same area is the object to the right of the stem and right-hand leaf. I'm not sure what that is and why it's there, and again creates distraction because it appears to have no purpose, no point of origin, and it breaks up the rhythm of the composition. Eliminating it would strengthen this image considerably. This is a great idea. Just a few minor tweaks could elevate this image considerably.
Joe Miko for Foxgloves Above the Sky and a score of 22.
John says, I really like this. Great profile of the dog. Head is in a good placement against the sky. It appears to be taken with a wide-angle lens as the front paws draw my eyes away from the face. I would like to see this shot with more of a telephoto lens.
Jackie Sedgwiecki, Friendly Wolf, 22.
Matthew said, a soft and beautiful sunset that leaves the viewer with an intentional sense of calm. I can almost hear the waves in the background.
Dave Karasek, Headlands Sunset ICM, score of 24, third place.
Phil comments, I appreciate the use of line as a compositional technique in this image. There are the diagonal lines of the child's torso and limbs, the vertical lines of what appears to be either glass or ice. In addition, there are subtle lines in the background behind the child that help keep my eye moving through the composition. There is an interesting change of color from red to green to blue over a monochromatic image, which is also predominantly backlit situation. Some things to improve would be some of the blown out highlights on the child's right knee, the top of her head, and on the bottom of the image on her shoe on camera right, and another to the right of that spot. The blown highlights in the ice, water, and glass are what I would normally see. However, still creates a distraction from the main subject. I'm also struggling with the story behind this body and behind this. There is a child who has the appearance to have just slid down something based on her happy expression and body posture, and she is surrounded by jagged ice glass, things that appear to be broken bits of metal. Perhaps some falling water, too, along with somber tones and colors. Expression, tones, and color play a powerful role in the overall mood of the image, and this doesn't look like the kind of setting that a child would have that expression, so I'm a little confused and distracted by that.
Jackie Bosinger Meredike, Holding On, a score of 19.
John says, this is interesting. This really needs to be printed big to get the full effect.
Kent Hill, iPhone in Infinity, a score of 24, third place.
Matthew said the overall composition presents intense emotion through the intentional use of color. The flow of the colors does feel in opposition to the piece and feels there is a missing piece not conveyed to the viewer.
Bill Keaton, Let's Rock, a score of 22.
Phil states, I really appreciate the use of color here. This image has a mostly purple monochromatic appearance, which I find very interesting. I'm enjoying the diagonal branch across the trunk of the tree with the purple leaves and the contrast of the rough bark of the tree with the soft leaves. I think this image could be substantially improved by cropping the top of the horizon line as the sky and creating a distraction in the upper left of the image and the light spots in the upper right. I would also crop the left and right close to the trunk of the tree to really lock in the best part of this image, the trunk, the branches, and the leaves. There is a lot of great potential here with just some simple cropping.
Eric Wethington, Lomography Purple, a score of 21.
John commented, I love this. There was nothing there, and you made something really good. This might be difficult to sell, but then again, it could be on the right greeting card.
Susan Bestel, Mansfield Reformatory Bathroom, a score of 24, third place.
Matthew said the positioning of the elements in this composition and heavy use of a tight depth of field really makes the piece shine. The colors and textures, when in tight focus, draw the eye across the entire piece, keeping the viewer's interest as they examine the hidden details.
Terry Arthur, Maple Leaf Moonlight, a score of 23.
Phil said, this is a beautiful set of patterns. I'm enjoying the colors, the shapes, and how each shape interacts with each other to create a whole. Very well done. Something to improve would be to remove the white line that surrounds the image. As it is shown, it is a distraction from the main image, and it really doesn't add anything to the image. I would also rotate the image clockwise to create a stronger diagonal and fill the space a little better. Cool concept.
Marge Brady, Melting, score of 22.
John says, wow, really cool. I can't see anything that would improve this. Great job. I like it.
Brian O'Riordan, Mercedes, a score of 24, third place.
Yay.
Matthew said, this mystical composition conveys a real impression of mystery based on the strong positioning of the main elements. However, the glow from the moon does distract the viewer from the details on the tower. If there were more clearly defined atmosphere, clouds, or haze in front of the tower, that would help the view connect with the scene.
Jill Zabka, Moonlight, a score of 24, third place.
Phil said, when I first saw this image, I was taken by the rhythm of the image and the repeating patterns that appear throughout. I'm also enjoying the contrast of the colors of what appears to be the older buildings in the foreground against the monochromatic effect of the more modern buildings in the background. The modern buildings have an imposing look compared to the buildings in the foreground, which reinforces this already interesting story. I would like to see a little more light and shadow, as there is an overall flat appearance to the light, either a little earlier or later in the day, depending on when this was taken, might have given a little more dimensionality to the image. On the right hand side, there is a light box like object in the middle, which is a distraction, and toning it down will help strengthen this image. I would also do the same with the windows at the bottom of the image on the right hand side on the red building. All things aside, this is a successful image. Well done.
Glenn Petronik, New York City close-up, a score of 26, which is first place.
John says, very interesting. It is the piano that give it the bass, otherwise it is nothing. Sometimes putting together two different things gives us something totally new. Great job.
Ron Werman, Orchids on a Piano, a score of 23.
Matthew said the intentional use of focus in this piece is striking. I'm not quite sure what he meant by inserting the word the texture. But anyways, the composition draws the eye well to the center of the flower to examine the details hidden therein. The intentional use of focus, though, does have a drawback, as it withdraws all detail to share in the background, leaving the viewer to only focus on the center and then move on.
Melanie Plummer, painted Anemi. How do you say that? Anemi Moni? Thank you. That's a score of 24, and it's third place.
Phil said, this image uses symmetry and it's well done. Not only is the flower perfectly centered, one side mirrors the other side perfectly, and I'm enjoying that symmetry. This image also uses posterization in the flower petals and in the center of the flower. It's an old effect that was popular back in the 60s and early 70s. It created a psychedelic look that was popular then. I think I would have allowed that posterization effect throughout all of the petals of the flower, as it would have carried through and turned it into a graphic art piece. I am missing seeing a stem, which would have grounded the subject in the composition. There is quite a bit of space below it, and so one naturally notices the missing stem. Placing the subject lower in the frame or allowing the posterization to carry through, the missing stem probably wouldn't be an issue.
Melanie Plummer, Psychedelic Electric Daisy, a score of 24, and that's third place.
John says, this would make excellent wall art. Maybe darkening the center of the plant might help. My eye keeps going there.
Catherine Kengott, Puffball Up Close, a score of 24, and that's third place.
Yay.
Matthew said, a striking portrait reminiscent of H.P. Lovecraft, The Shadow, over Innsmouth. If the view is familiar with H.P. Lovecraft's mythos, then they'll be encouraged to really take in the details of the piece, from the town on the water in the background to the cold stare that implies deep meaning or perhaps an emptiness.
Jennifer Gaba, Self-Portrait, Munch Style, a score of 20.
Oh my gosh.
Phil said, I am really enjoying the color scheme, the browns, greens, a few blues, and some whites. Good sharpness in the center pod. Some things to consider to improve this would be to simplify the image, I guess. Even though it is out of focus, there is still a lot happening in the background to distract my eye from the main subject. I would focus on one seed pod and do what needs to be done to remove any other pods that would distract from the main subject.
Jane Sidney, Sunspots, a score of 18.
John's comment, Beautiful. I like the colors. The white floor is the brightest thing in the picture. It might improve it if it was slightly darker.
Wally Nell, The Arcade Cleveland, a score of 23.
Matthew said, a great composition that looks to be an HDR influence given the highlights and low lows. Excuse me, he said, given the high highs and low lows. There are distractions through the vignette impacting the sky in the upper right corner and the offset base of the globe structure. The viewer is drawn to almost tilt their head to center the base as it strengthens impact of the piece.
Glenn Patronek, The Unisphere, a score of 23.
Phil stated, I really enjoy this image. It has a wonderful / Art Deco feel to it, and the presentation has a nice color to complement the colors of the main subject. I'm also enjoying how the dark area inside the oval separates the design within the oval from its background. To improve the image, I would probably tone down some of the brighter areas that frame the oval and dodge the design in the middle to brighten it up that would balance. Right now, the brightest part is the oval itself, and that bubbles in the middle has some beautiful detail that is being overshadowed by the oval frame. Strive for balance in those tones, and that should help improve the image.
Brian O'Riordan, Dissel Reborn, a score of 23.
John says, I like this because I know what is going on. I am being really picky here when I say watch between his legs. It would be better if it was clearer.
Paul Giglia, Train Spotting Self-Portrait, a score of 22.
Matthew said, a strong composition that conveys a sense of exuberance in the moments to come. While all major elements, lighting, background, positioning of the subject, play nicely together, there is a minor distraction brought about by the hair over the shoulder.
Jackie Sedgwick, Tying Her Shoes, a score of 23.
Phil said, I am really enjoying the feel of this image created by the color scheme, the ocean, and the birds on the camera right. The composition works really well as the birds balance out the sun on the left, and the whole image leaves a wonderful, peaceful feeling. To improve, the birds are really your main subject, yet they are in the darkest part of the image. Your eye goes to the area of greatest contrast, which in this case is on camera left, which is the sunlight reflecting in the water. I would dodge the white right side of the image to bring out the contrast between the birds and the water they are flying in front of, and that will help draw more attention to them.
DJ Casanidi, Where Dreams Come From, a total of 23.
John says, this is really cool. I want to go there. You found a really good angle of these sculptures. The sky looks great. I would straighten the horizon.
Terry Arthur, Who Will Win, a total score of 24, and that's third place.
Matthew said, an interpretive and interesting use of texture and color to convey a strong flower composition. There are various elements, though, that distract the viewer, such as the flowers on the edges, that impact appreciating the piece as a whole.
Gary Marich, Yellow Flowers Fine Art, a score of 20.
Phil said, I really like the raw energy in this image. The zoom effect all around the face of this performer coupled with the performer's expression, really create a lot of impact in this image. To improve the image, he needs more light where his eyes are. I can just make out his eyes and perhaps a fill flash or grabbing another shot while his head was turned more toward the sun, I think would have added tremendous impact to this image. In addition, I would also vignette the image as there is a lot of distracting elements around his face that are brighter and more contrasty and taking away from his face. Cool concept, just needs a little refinement.
Gary Marich, Big Chief Radial Blur, a score of 21.
John's comment, the building is interesting enough for me to want to see it without the special effect. You did a good job getting the lines straight. This might be better without the extra effect.
Jill Zabka, Crown Center, a score of 24, and that's third place.
Matthew said there is an implication of light and dark in this composition that is thought-provoking. However, aside from the sticks, there aren't any strong elements that stand out to give the viewer more to dwell on, leading to a quick review. It would be more engaging with enhanced detail or more creative positioning of the shadows.
Eric Wethington, Dramatic Shadows, a score of 17.
Phil said, I'm really enjoying the simple color palette of this image. One color, and it shows how effective a single color is. This has a lot of wonderful texture, as most rock formations like this has. To me, it feels cropped to too close on the left-hand side. It feels cramped there. Also, what appears to be a white vignette around the image doesn't seem to be working. I think I would have gone darker on the vignette, and the color in the rock would be a little richer and feel a little more natural.
Jane Sidney, Faces in the Rock, a score of 21.
John says, I love this. I can't quite tell what is happening. It adds to the mystery. I am sure there is a great story behind this. You may want to darken the top right corner and lighten the bottom just a little.
Dan Sandy, Fall from Grace, a score of 24, and that's third place.
Matthew said, this is an interesting composition showing off a reflective light room with multiple participants. These sorts of rooms are difficult to photograph as the photographer needs to attempt to position themselves to capture the infinity in the mirrors while avoiding distracting elements, such as other people and or the reflections of them seen on the roof and floor.
Kent Hill, Floating in Stars, a score of 19.
Phil said, this is beautiful. I'm really enjoying the long exposure to capture the movement in the water and also some of the motion in the sky. The result is a silky movement that is apparent throughout the image. The colors are vibrant and work well together. The sun seems centered, and I have to wonder if it would be improved by recomposing the image so that the sun is to the right of center and there is a little more visible on the left-hand side. The right-hand 1/3 of the image tends to create feelings of rest, and it would be a good position for the sun, and we would be able to enjoy a little more of the scene as it unfurls towards the left of the image.
Dave Kurasek, Lake Erie ICM, a score of 25, and that is second place.
Wow, great. John says, I remember trying to do things like this in the darkroom. It wasn't easy. I tend to go with the simple now. What if they were all straight? It might be better.
Paul Goodlier, multiple perspectives, a score of 23.
Matthew says, an interesting piece using a long exposure to communicate motion and light in a way that leaves the viewer curious over what has transpired in the space presented. From the flags to the lights drawn by the light movements is the key aspect conveyed to the viewer with some curiosity over why some of those lights flow away from where one might expect traffic to go.
Jeff Sabo, Nighttime in Ennis, a score of 20.
Phil stated, I really love the movement in this image. I think that was a good technique employed to create impact in this image. I think the grove of trees would otherwise be static and probably less interesting. I would crop this from the bottom of this to crop out the lighter part of the image. I think it will ground the trees a little more, and also the darker ground will also lead the eye more up to the trees. Right now, the brighter ground at the bottom tend to pull the eye downwards. I would really like to enjoy the tree trunks.
DJ Castanetti, Norwegian Woods, 22 points.
John says, the tree looks great. I am not sure the horizontal and the vertical lines add anything to the picture.
Joseph Miko, The Skeleton, 24 points for a third place.
Matthew said, it is usually quite difficult to make striking compositions involving flowers, though in this case it was done quite creatively through the use of refraction and magnification brought about by the wonderful use of the droplets. There is a lot for the viewer to review in the scene, though each droplet is its own window into the background. This piece, though, may be very startling for those that suffer from trypophobia.
Whatever. Susan Bestel, Underwater Flower, a score of 24 for a third place.
Phil wrote, this is a nice arrangement of horses. There is an odd number of them with one more predominant than the others. It's a great composition and good use of tone to tie them all together. It appears that a couple of them, if not all the horses, were composited into this scene. Refining the masking around the horse on the far right and far left would add impact to the image. I'm also wondering about the brown horse just to the right of center. There is something about his mane and his back that doesn't make sense to me. I'm also seeing hazy vertical areas that I can't explain. I think you have a great idea and a great story. I think it really only needs refinement and how they were assembled.
Jackie Bosinger, Meredike, Wild Horses Mashup, a score of 22. And that completes the end of the creative competition. A round of applause to all the artists and photographers and to our great readers. So we're going to take a how-minute break? 5 minutes? Yeah.
can't speak for me. I want to have dinner. I want to have dinner. Yeah, I think when we were. It takes so long for that to go. So those Tony that 50 cent computer, up until now, we've been using. Yeah, basically, it's got the new ribbons across. But it's standalone, it's loaded on the. Yeah. Maybe next one. Yeah. Take that. That's all. First, score. Yes.
So next, we're going to be doing the pictorial. It's about the same amount of pictures. We only have about half of them that have comments. So the first section will be just showing the image, and then I'll announce the score and the person, and I'll make sure that I say everybody's name correctly as best as I can. And I apologize to those who I did not. Okay. So I'm gonna let these pictures breathe for a second before I announce the score. Okay. This is Brad Nelson Rubensai, Amir Lepid at Zoo, a score of 23. Joe Miko, Bard Owl, a score of 25, and that is a award of second place. This is Brad Nelson Rubensai, Barriers of Lake Erie. This is a score of 25, and that is also second place. Jill Zabka, Blarney Castle, a score of 23. Benjamin Williams, Chewing the Cud, a score of 22. Susan Bestel, Dancing Fest, a score of 22. Richard Ader, Discovering Her Shadow, a score of 21. DJ Casanidi, Dogwood, a score of 19. Richard Ader, Father and Son Time, a score of 19. Dennis Wirt, Gravenstein Castle, a score of 21. Kent Hill, Korean Woman with Umbrella, a score of 20. David Karasek, Lofington, Norway, Hamnoy Village, a score of 21. Jane Sidney, Lotus, 19. Leslie Nutt, Manicured, a score of 23. Gary Marich, Molting Eagle, Touch of Color, a score of 20. Eric Botsky, Ribbit, a score of 23. Eric Wethington, Rockefeller Greenhouse, a score of 19. Dan Sandy, Solitary Light, a score of 24 with an award of 3. Third place. Ron Werman, Summers at Severance, a score of 21. Jackie Bosinger, Merodike, Sunset and Lake McDonald, a score of 25 with second place. Leslie Nutt, Swans in the Morning, a score of 18. Paul Gilia, Taking Flight, a score of 25 for second place. Benjamin Williams, Through the Mirror, a score of 21. Bob Kowaleski, When the Light Stayed, a score of 24 for third place. Bob Kowaleski, Where Shelter Waits, a score of 26 for first place. Eric Botsky, You Looking at Me, a score of 23. And that ends the images that we have that don't have any comments. We'll now begin the images that have comments.
John says, awesome picture, sharp, good exposure. I can turn it so it is flying up and may like it better. I think I would crop it less or crop it more than what it is.
Richard Ader, Afterburners On, a score of 24 for third place.
Matthew says a strong composition showing off a coming storm or weather front. The horizon not being misaligned with the viewer is a distraction, while the rest of the piece follows a good use of the rule of thirds.
Catherine Kennegat, Angry Michigan Sky, a score of 23.
Phil states, this is a really cool, ornate detail of what is probably a very spectacular interior. The blues and golds really go together well and create an interesting vibrancy. To improve the image, I think a different camera angle might have worked a little better. Right now, the main subject, which I take to be the figures in the triangle in the middle, is cropped in a strange place, and it directs my eye to leave the composition. I think simply raising the camera angle would have included the whole section and would have reinforced the main subject. I think I would also suggest burning in the gold panel on the camera left as it really shines and distracts from the main subject. I would probably try to pull it close to the tone we have in the panels on camera right, which are considerably darker, which would help draw attention to the graphic in the middle.
Mike Kopkis, Archangels, a score of 19.
John says, this is a good find. I would crop off the sky and the right side of the picture. Then you only have two windows, the red truck and the two in wheelchairs.
Glenn Petronik, Bel Air Bridge Junction, a score of 17.
Matthew says this is a wonderful view of a few bridges across a river. The composition would be improved by focusing on a few elements that are a bit distraction. One would be to orient the bridges along a line to follow the rule of thirds, giving a line for the eye to follow across the composition, along with improving the reflection in the water, either with a fast shutter or some sort of extended exposure to make the composition more magical.
Ron Werman, Bridges at Stan Hewitt, a score of 18.
Phil said, "This is a really solid image. I've locked eyes with this animal and really enjoy this image overall. It has a wonderful analogous color palette, and I'm drawing into this face because of the high degree of sharpness and contrast that is there. The subject is isolated due to shallow depth of field, again keeping my eyes locked into that face and simplifying what would be a busy background. Very well done. The only suggestions I have to make it better would be things like the twig that is in the foreground and pointing to the belly of this animal. Probably remove it as it really isn't adding anything to the image and distracts a little bit. I would also soften the dark spot in the upper camera right. All of these things are nitpicky. However, this image can get just a little bit stronger if you deal with these little details. Great job."
Eric Botsky, by Enna, a score of 26 for first place.
Yay. John's comment, this is the spot. There is so much here. The flowers against the door, the roosters, the broken pots. Move in. Don't try to get everything.
Leslie Nutt, Chickens, a score of 19.
Matthew says, a curious and wonderful shot of a food truck at night. This composition would be improved by extending the exposure a little to get more of the skyline in the background exposed. Overall, though, the temperatures that the various light sources add a clash of color temperatures that make the overall piece engaging.
Charles Kay, Cincinnati Observatory, a score of 23.
Phil states, "This is a spectacular image of this monarch butterfly. It appears it was captured in flight, which is truly a great feat as it appears tack sharp. Great use of photographic technique to accomplish that. One area where this image could be improved would be the crop at the bottom of the image. Right now, I'm distracted from the butterfly because of all the lights and darks that are at the bottom of the image, as well as a large soft area where an out-of-focus flower is. I think bringing the crop line up to eliminate the darker areas of the base of this image will help focus attention on the butterfly, and I think you'll be impressed how much stronger the image will be."
Terry Arthur, Floating By, a score of 23.
John's comment, I love this. The reflection in the mirror is great. Look at the details. The plug wires, the bottles on the counter. This is about as perfect as a picture can be.
Jackie Saweski in for a trim, a score of 25 for second place.
Matthew says, this piece, while engaging, suffers from an overuse of the creative filter. It's difficult to understand from a viewer's perspective what they're evaluating. If the composition is interpreted more in a color or focus aspect, the eye is drawn to the fluff and seeds as they clearly stand out in the creative filters, texture, and interpretation.
This is Brian O. Riordan, Milkweed, a score of 23.
Phil said, this is a very interesting image. It's a cool abstract of a VW hubcap with the legs of the maker standing within. It's a really cool idea and lends itself to a very impactful image. To improve this image would be to simply crop the top so that it's about the same distance from the top of the rim as it is from the top of the hubcap to the bottom of the image. In a sense, makes this rim symmetrical with the edges of the image. It's a great idea. Good job.
Jennifer Gabber, My Better Half, a score of 23.
John says, beautiful. If you turn the camera a bit to the right, what would it look like? How about to the left? I feel there is more to be seen.
Brad Nelson Rubensai, Pier at Sunset, a score of 23.
Matthew said, a stunning editorial shot with an excellent capture of motion on the snake's tongue. The composition as a whole would only benefit, in my opinion, from cropping a little bit closer to the snake on the left side of the piece. Otherwise, it's a superb capture.
Marge Brady, Pit Viper, 25 points for second place.
Let's see, Phil said, this is a very interesting image. Am I in the right? I think so. No, I did. I'm sorry. Got the wrong one. We're down here. This is hilarious. This dog looks like he's in heaven enjoying this lollipop. I really like the background. This is a situation where it would be easy to get a distracting background. However, the maker did a great job positioning the camera to give me an interesting background without distractions. I think the crop of the image is appropriate to the subject, and it is composed well. To improve the image, I would have taken the lollipop and moved it to the side to give me more of a profile of the dog. Right now, the lollipop is covering part of his face and tongue, and those are very much a part of the picture.
Bill Keaton, Slurp, a score of 20.
John comments, great shot. Go back here if you can. That is a beautiful spot to take a portrait of a couple or a single. Tone down the rail on the left and the light on the wall.
Wally Nell, Stairway, a score of 24 for third place.
Matthew says, an engaging sunset along with an interesting use of color to invoke emotion in the composition. There is a true last days of summer vibe to the piece, along with a vignette to draw the viewer's eye. The piece may be improved by removing some of the people along the beach if the intent is to communicate the atmosphere versus those human elements.
Joe DiStefano, Sunset on the Pier, a score of 23.
Phil said, this is a beautiful landscape. The colors are incredible. The sun low on the horizon gives us this spectacular color on the rocks, contrasted by the blue sky, which sets up a wonderful vibrancy. The foreground is in shadow, yet has detail and joy as a secondary element to this image. To improve the image, I would remove the stump in the bottom middle. It's not really adding anything to the image. And in the foreground, it catches the eye and is distracting. I think I would also try to include more of camera left, as it seems to be cropped in an awkward place. Extending the crop to camera left would probably help make the image feel more grounded. A couple of small things, but overall a really great image.
Melanie Plummer, Superstition Mountain Sunset, a score of 25 for second place.
John says, what a great find. I like the use of black and white. I also like how the sunlight is on the stuffed animal. There's a story here. Well done.
Bob Kowaleski, The Weight of What's Left, a score of 26 with first place.
Matthew says, a truly striking composition that draws the eye of the viewer down the spiral path to the center of the photo. This piece may be enhanced by color versus the original use of black and white, but would be best determined by the artist and their intent.
Benjamin Williams, Through the Barrel, a score of 22. And that completes tonight's pictorial and creative competitions. Another round of applause for everybody.
One last announcement that I forgot that's kind of important. The board allowed last night, we closed the air show ticket registration at 5 o'clock today. We've extended it to midnight. So if you were thinking about the air show tickets, you've got till midnight. So thank you very much.
It's a bummer, but it really is. Right there.